All right. For the moment, we just have Jake Sherman with us, MS Now political contributor. Maggie Haberman, we're trying to reconnect with. We will get her in a moment. Let's talk about how Congress is reacting, Jake, to the president switching planes. I know Democrats were wondering what the heck was going on. What else are you hearing?
Well, I mean, Katie, they were never a fan of this plane to begin with, right? I mean, accepting a plane from the Qatari government was never really something that they had bargained for. Of course, they didn't say much, and there's really not a ton that they could do legislatively to stop this. Of course, they could say that there's no federal money that could go to this plane. That's a risky proposition that I don't think Republicans were willing to take. But just on its face, Katie, I mean, accepting a plane from the Qataris that is not fit for government use from the get-go is not a great play. But he had grown disillusioned quite clearly with the original Air Force One, which was had aged. It needed to be replaced, and Trump wasn't happy with the speed with which he was getting the plane from Boeing, so he took this route. I will say, though, when Democrats do take the majority, Katie, there will be significant questions, and there already are significant questions about what will happen to the plane after he leaves office. I think that will be something that will be interesting to watch, because I think in some of the agreements it says it will go to him, it will go to his library after he leaves the presidency. I don't think that's going to fly, to be honest with you, Katie.
Well, do you
think
that they don't buy that it's actually going to, after just 2 years, get put into a library, or the president might end up using it a little bit more?
I think the government has spent a significant amount of money on it. I've seen reports from, I think we've reported that the military has effectively said that they will judge the usefulness and the fitness of this plane based on the standards by which they judge them typically, right? And I don't think a brand new plane that the Air Force and that the military has put a bunch of money into is just going to go sit in a library like it does at Reagan's library in California. That was a much older plane that was out of use, that had been decommissioned, so to speak. I don't know that it's going to fly, that this plane just goes to him or just goes to his library, whatever it does. I think that's going to be an issue that people are going to want answers on.
Well, also, I mean, it's going to cost a ton of money to take all the security features and all of the exclusive stuff out of it, all the classified materials and classified upgrades off this plane. You can't just store them in a library. Can't just have them flying around, not with the president of the United States when Donald Trump's out of office. Go ahead.
Also, Katie, I don't quite understand. His library is going to be in a high rise in the middle of Miami. I'm struggling to see how you're going to squeeze a 747-800 or whatever it is into a high rise in the middle of Miami, but not my area of expertise, Katie.
Yeah, I was also I cringed because the imagery of that doesn't evoke a good memory. Let's bring in New York Times White House correspondent Maggie Haberman. She's, again, co-author of the new book, Regime Change, Inside the Imperial Presidency of Donald Trump, which I'm sure you all know because you all have a copy, because it's a great book. And Maggie is an exceptional reporter, and so is John. Maggie, good to have you.
Thank you.
Tell us
Katie.
more about the decision to fly apparently this not quite up to snuff plane to Turkey.
Well, look, there's things that we don't know, right, about exactly what was going on. It's not a surprise that he flew the plane to Turkey, in my mind, because he has wanted to have this plane, and he's been very clear about it. Other world leaders have nicer planes. He has said he's been very frustrated, as you know well, with the delays in the delivery from Boeing of the 2 new Air Force Ones. I would like to say that, I have been on that Air Force One, the old one. It's a very old plane. There are legitimate reasons why they are worried about how much longer it can fly. However, he took this plane to Turkey for a summit with world leaders. Clearly, something happened. We don't know exactly what. There were, my colleagues reported, concerns from the Secret Service about flying out on that particular plane, and so they were swapped. This is not something you would normally do. His story about how he wanted troops to see it was a little bit hard to believe, and the tell, Katie, was the window shades having to be down as they were flying out on the old Air Force One of Turkey into the UK. This is a plane that was retrofitted security-wise, not built from scratch. They normally take much longer to build, and there is a reason. This was done quickly because he wanted it to be ready to fly. Now, he has said it had all of its bells and whistles and, security wise, but there remain questions as to if that's the case, then why couldn't he just fly this one out of Turkey? And he was quite candid that he was facing some kind of a threat from Iran, that we don't know exactly what.
Let me ask you about the war. Does the president know what he's doing? Does he know if he's going to be striking more, if he's not going to be striking more? Because he's been all over the place.
I would require crawling inside his mind, John Malkovich style, in a way that I don't feel like I can. But I think what he wants, Katie, and you've covered him a long time. He wants a way out of this. He wants some kind of an off-ramp. The increasing hostilities and firing with Iran is not at all what they wanted. They really thought that this MOU, at least the U.S. government did, was going to lead to, if not something more conclusive and something more concrete in terms of an actual deal, that at least it would just be a pause in the fighting. The U.S. is running low on munitions. There are a number of reasons the president does not want to have to go back in and increase hostilities, but he is dealing with an adversary where there are clearly mixed signals from the U.S. to Iran and in the other direction. And the president has said various things about whether these are a good group of people or a newer group of people that he's dealing with. It's hard to see this ending anytime soon, especially because he keeps escalating threats verbally.
I got one more question about whether the White House understands what this war is doing to him politically. This is anecdotal. I was down the shore for 4th of July. I did not see one Trump flag, which is shocking. Not one. Do they understand how people have reacted, how the MAGA base, Republican voters have reacted to this war?
They, his political advisors, absolutely understand. He absorbing it, I think, is a different issue. And one of the things that has been so radically different about this term, among many, many others from term one, is he's so much less responsive to domestic politics. And Jonathan and I write about this at length in the book. His team is very well aware of the problems politically for him in a war that went against something he said he would do in the campaign, despite the fact that he was always more hawkish about Iran than other places around the world. They can see that gas prices, have gone up, gone down. They're likely to go back up, given that oil prices will go up again. One of his advisors had told someone that, we need this off the front pages by September. Well, this is not heading that way right now. But so, yes, they are very aware and concerned. He is not as focused on it as they are.
All right, Maggie Haberman, great to have you. Glad we got you reconnected.
Thanks so much, Katie. Me too. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. It happens.